All right, so let's talk about accountability. And I think where to start off this conversation has to be around, I think, society's worldview on accountability. And what I mean by that is, so you grow up, you are told, go to college, get a good job. And when you go into corporate America, you have high levels of accountability.
Yes.
Now, if you look at that, that's just and why large companies have such high levels of expectations and accountability on their people, it's because it works, right? It's the key to success. But people that get into real estate, they're drawn to the industry because of a lack of accountability. That's one of the big draws. Now, they wouldn't say that specifically. They wouldn't be like, well, I'm getting into real estate because there's no accountability.
Right.
They say something different. They mean the same thing, which is, I'm getting into real estate because I want to be my own boss.
Yep. And that is the blessing and the curse of this business. The good thing is you're your own boss. You can make your own schedule. But then when you get to make your own schedule, you end up either not doing anything, or things go like that for too long where now you're scheduled to catch up. You have to work way more than you should have had to if you just had accountability and followed the schedule in the beginning. Yeah.
I mean, the very thing that draws people into the industry, that is the, it is the draw, is the very thing that causes people to actually fail in the business, right? So I want to be my own boss. I don't want to be held accountable to anything. I want to do what I want, when I want, when I feel like doing it. And that is the blessing and the curse. We call it the 1099 curse. You know, in the beginning, it seems great. But what we learned about humans is they need structure. They need accountability. They need somebody there to make sure that they're doing what they need to be doing. Why? Because left on our own, we know people will absolutely take the path of least resistance. And it doesn't matter who it is, you know, like, I think some people are like, well, once I succeed or once I get to the top, well, then that level of accountability can come down. That's not true.
Right.
It's actually quite the opposite.
Right.
The more successful you become, the more accountability that you need.
And another way to say accountability, like the reason accountability works, is another word for that would be consequences. In the corporate world, your accountability is showing up to work. But why? Because if you don't do what you're being held accountable to, there's an immediate consequence. In the real estate business, that consequence is imminent over the long tail. Eventually, you're going to have to go broke, get into debt, find a job, or do something. But that tail is so far out into the future, you can't feel that consequence. So it's too late. By the time you notice, like, I need to change things, it's too late.
Yeah. Well, and I guess the interesting about corporate America's accountability system is because it's tied to a paycheck.
Yes.
Right? It's I call it the addiction to every other Friday. You know, and you know, what's interesting is that the other thing that we've learned about people is people are more motivated by the fear of loss than they are motivated by, you know, what's to gain.
I really wanted to talk about that, actually.
So let's break into it, because I think the draw, again, I think the very things that appeal to people when they say they want to get into real estate are the very things that they find out that are the things that cause them to not succeed in the industry.
And a lot of it too, speaking of the negative consequences, like what is going to have someone take action faster and change faster? I call it the chubby kid on the beach versus the burning house.
Ooh, tell me. This
is
great.
So imagine when maybe you're a parent, maybe you remember when you were a kid and it's summertime, it's 87 degrees, humidity's at 100%, you've been at the beach for 2 hours, and then you hear that ice cream truck running, right? Mom, Dad, the ice cream's in the parking lot, like, let's go, you start running, like you don't care, you're jumping over people, like you're trying to get to that ice cream truck, right?
Yeah.
You're going to run pretty fast. Versus tonight, and I'm going to knock on some figurative wood that this doesn't happen, but tonight you wake up and you hear crackling, you hear the fire alarms going off, you hear smoke, and you open your door and you see smoke coming out of the house. You're like, damn, like my house is literally on fire. Like I got to go get my kid, go get my pet. I got to get out of this house. Who's going to run faster?
Right.
Yeah, and it's the negative. Why do they run faster?
Great point.
Because there's a negative consequence of not taking action with that fire versus the negative consequence of not getting that ice cream fast enough isn't there. Sure, you might sweat for a little bit longer if you miss the ice cream truck, but you're only going to run so fast. You're not going to run through broken glass to go get an ice cream cone versus getting out of your house. You'll jump out of a second-story building.
That is phenomenal.
So it's
Where
like,
did you hear that? Did you make this up?
I just think of weird analogies all the time to help people see what's in their way. You know.
So what is it called?
I just call it the fat kid on the beach versus the burning house.
Yeah.
You know, another way to say it is like the bear versus the deer. You know, the bear is hungry. He sees a deer. He starts chasing the deer, and he's gonna run because he's hungry. He's got to eat. Versus that deer, you know. He's running for his life. The bear's hungry. He wants to eat. Who's going to stop running first, the deer or the bear?
Wow.
The bear, because, you know, the deer has an extremely negative consequence for not taking action. And so going back to corporate America thing, the reason people show up for work, get that paycheck, do their thing is because if they don't, there's an immediate consequence. Maybe there's a warning or two, but you're getting fired, losing that paycheck if you don't show up.
Yep.
Versus in real estate, it can be 3 months. You could go, we heard every day, oh, it's been a few months since my last closing. It's this. Okay, well, what are you doing every day? Well, you know, and they can't come up with an answer. And so there's not an immediate negative consequence for not taking the right action. It just takes a long period of time to start feeling the consequence of that.
Yeah, so true. And I have done a couple experiments there in real estate. And so, you know, what I've done is, most of it's conceptual, but this will give the people listening to this podcast a visual. So how do we put that concept into real estate when traditionally doesn't exist?
Yep.
And so what does that mean? That means that the exercise that I've done, and I did I wrote about it specifically, and I'll have to find it and bring it out. But what would happen if we, Colton, instead of when coaching an agent to do X, Y, and Z activities, we actually at the beginning of the relationship just give them a $100,000 check up front.
Yep.
We deposit it into their bank account, and we say the only thing you have to do to keep the money at the end of the year is make 20 conversations per day.
Yeah.
And every day, right? So if you look at, okay, what's 100,000 divided by the daily contacts over the course of the year?
Right.
So they're going to earn X dollars per conversation.
Yes.
What they'll find is two things. Number one, when they have 20 conversations over the course of a year, they would consistently, without ever missing, because they didn't want to lose the paycheck. They didn't want to lose what they felt they already have, which is the salary.
Yes.
Which was the guaranteed money. And in this case was the 100,000 we put in their account.
Yeah.
That at the end of the year, through that consistency, they would have made a lot more than 100,000.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, when they don't get the money up front and we ask them to make the 20 conversations every day for 240 days in a year, it's rare that someone does it.
And you know, another thing that reminds me of why someone's able to do that, not only because of the not wanting to lose what they feel like is there, like you mentioned, but it's very clear what they have to do. There's absolute clarity. There's no like, well, what if this, what if that, or I don't know where to start or how many I should talk to. There's complete clarity. And so what I would relate that to is like, that's the end destination. The end destination is known. A lot of agents that we talk to, either when they first start coaching with us or on some of the free consultations we'll do, they don't even know what their goals are. They're like, I just, if I could make 100,000, okay. But that's all they know.
There's no context.
There's no context. There's no steps to get there. And so an analogy I give similar to that you say, all right, the 100,000's in your bank account. You just have to do these things every day to get it. And if you miss one, you lose it. That's what I would call clarity. They're very clear. And so what I tell people is, imagine if I had a $100,000 check for you. I live in Michigan. I'm talking to you. You're in California. I live in Michigan. I say, hey, come get this check. Come get it for me. It's 100,000. If you come here, you can get it. And if that's all I give you, all you know is, okay, I need to go northeast. Like, that's all you know.
Sure.
Until we have a end destination, until I give you my home address, which is the final point, we can reverse engineer a path in the GPS to get to my front door. And so complete clarity is what you just said. You just make 20 contacts a day, guaranteed you have $100,000.
Yeah.
And we can do the same thing by reverse engineering somebody's business plan and be like, look, this is, and not just guesswork, like we've done it thousands of times with agents, so it's not like a random thing. This has happened thousands of times for agents who do these things. It guarantees they get the income.
Yeah.
And until you have that clarity, you're not going to do the things that will get you there.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because when we start working with an agent up front, they are so unclear, right? And that causes a sense of overwhelm.
Yep.
So that's why the first thing we always do, and it's a really good point you're bringing up, is build out a custom business action plan.
We need to have a North Star.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not just going to do random stuff and hope it works.
That's right.
You know?
And that's so interesting. And going back to the dollars per contact, it's about $20 a contact.
Yeah.
So $20 conversations a day is worth about $20 per conversation, regardless of the conversation. Whether the person hangs up on you, you set an appointment, you generate a lead, it's worth $20.
Yep.
And so the exercise, and I would love to actually do this with somebody, is say, hey, here's the 100K.
Yeah.
And every day you don't hit your 20 conversations, you lose $20 a day.
Ooh.
So we're bringing that same consequence more immediate.
Yes.
That what they felt in corporate America.
Yep.
Right. So at the end of the day, like if you did 15, okay, cool. Well, you're getting deducted this much from the bank account because you already got the money.
We should run a challenge like that over like a 90-day or 60-day period for like 10 grand or whatever. And every time you don't do it, you're taking it away. And as like a prize, everything and above and beyond you make over that will have some type of rule that you know that gets to, or even better. Oh, this is even better.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say we don't take away the dollars that you lose. We donate it to like your opposite political campaign or something you would despise. It's got to go to that.
That's a good idea.
You know, that's interesting.
I think for me, and we'll move on to the next point, but for me, it would be, well, the person who's front loading the cash, I get the reward through proving to you that what's possible.
Yes.
That actually is more painful.
Yeah.
Because here's what I believe. I guess let me pull my calculator out again, but call it the average commission right now, because the average price across the country is probably like $350, $375, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. After splits.
Yeah.
I'll get my calculator.
Yeah. So an average commission is probably like right now, as we're making this podcast, $8,000.
Yeah.
So $8,000 times 20 transactions is what?
160.
Okay. So, that's what I would do with somebody, right? It's like, hey, if you do a minimum of 20 conversations, it doesn't matter if you're new to the industry, you've been in the industry for a long time, new market, doesn't matter. Your daily average conversations typically will end in your annual closings.
Yep.
So that person makes $160,000. I paid them $100. I get to keep the 60, right? Yeah. They would have made 160, but they had to prove to themselves.
Right.
Most people would trade that in.
Yeah.
That's the point. The point is most people would trade
the guarantee for what could happen, but the uncertainty is there.
But what's interesting in real estate is sometimes agents will say, no, I just like the feeling of unlimited income, even though they're not even coming close to their potential. That's just the feeling. Yeah. So anyway, so let's talk about something that I've been talking about lately, which is the industry's incentive to set up people for failure through a framework of a lack of accountability. Okay, and what I mean by that is this. So if you look at someone's interest, right? So if you look at a broker's interest, an MLS's interest, a board's interest, or NAR's interest, their interest is to appeal to the masses, is to get as many people into this industry as possible, regardless of their success or their production, because of how they generate revenue, right? The revenue model. So there's no incentive for a broker or an MLS or a board to confront you on your goals, to hold you accountable to your goals, because you got in the industry because you didn't want that. So the last thing they can do is provide that to you or shoot you straight on what it's going to take to succeed, in fear that if they tell you the truth, that you're going to get out of the industry. So therefore, they get in their own way. They lose their monthly fees. They lose their subscriptions. They lose all their revenue. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't have much to add. It's just spot on. It's just obvious. And, obviously it's easy to make a general statement like that when it's typically true. There's always exceptions. Like
everything's a spectrum. It's not 100% anything. There's some good brokers out there that do.
Yeah. Like I've worked at a couple of good brokers, a couple of not so good brokers who really don't care, that are like just hoping and praying they get an agent who's producing and just give them the attention. And I've worked at Brookstone, your brokerage, and you guys like give so much. It's like, it's hard to fail, but then it goes back to the accountability. It's still on the person to execute. And that's the lack of expectation given is like, we can, even if a broker does give you all of this stuff, like the MLS, they give you a lot of cool tools to use to grow your business.
Yeah.
But it's actually executing on that stuff, which is the hard part.
Which is the very next point. And so there's a fallacy, Colton. There's a fallacy out there around information.
Okay.
And there's so many people that are under the belief that information is the secret to results.
Yep.
In other words, we talk to people all the time that ask us the question, well, why would I invest into coaching or invest into myself when all the information is free out there? And my question to them always is, well, why haven't you succeeded then?
Yeah.
If information was the key, we'd all be rich, fit, and happy.
Yep.
But what's the reality? The truth is it's rare that you find somebody who's fit, rich, and happy.
Yep.
It's fair, even though information is abundant.
Yeah.
All the free information out there that you want. Well, what's the difference?
Yeah.
What is the secret between people getting results and not?
Yeah.
Execution, accountability.
I tell people all the time, I was like, don't pay anybody ever for information.
That's right.
Like you know, there's the saying of like, you know, with personal development, like invest in yourself, knowledge is key. I would argue to say that's why you're stuck.
That's right.
Because you're looking for information, you're looking to learn more, and you're not actually applying what you already know. And it's something you told me the other day. It's not what we teach, it's what we emphasize. And coaching is not meant to teach you all these new things, learn all these new skills. Sure, there's things we'll teach you, right? Yeah. Sure, we'll shortcut things on a skill set, but it's getting you to do the things you already know that you need to do and know how to do, but consistently doing it over time. I recorded when you said that to me, and I listen to it like every couple of days. I'm like, that's the mindset we need to have when we're talking to people, because it's not about what you know, it's about what you do.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. No one's paying you on what you know.
Yeah.
You're only getting paid based on what you do.
Yep.
And, you know, I would go as far as to say, and this is why I think people sometimes resonate with the message. It's like, I'm just going to I'm going to shoot people completely straight right now.
1,000,000%.
And that is by saying there are people that are trying to sell information in a way that really is a mirage.
Yes.
You know, they're trying to package and message and position information in a certain way to be more valuable than it is. And I want people to understand there are no secrets. So much so that I honestly believe that if a real estate agent gets into the industry and all they do is use the worst script of all time.
Yep.
They call people, Colton, they said, this was the script. Would you like to sell your home? And they did that 20, 30, 40, 50 times a day. No other sexy strategy, no social media, no YouTube channel, nothing else. And they just did that they would be in the top 5% within 2 or 3 years.
Oh, I literally every day I talk to people, because we probably as a company talk with like 30 agents a day.
Yeah.
And I talk to 7 to 10 agents a day. And almost every single person I talk to, I'm like, look, number one, do not pay us for information. Like they're asking like, I don't know how to find leads, whatever. I'm like, don't like, use Vulcan 7. Like you don't need to pay us to tell you what leads to get. But another thing I say, even to new agents, and I'm honest with people, like if I don't feel like this is true, I won't say it to them. But for most people I talk to, it's like, you don't need us.
Right.
You don't need us to succeed. Most coaches, most people out there will make you feel like they have the secret thing that you're missing, and that once you have them, they're your Lord and Savior. That is going to be the thing to change you. I was like, no. You can't succeed without us. We're meant to speed things up for you, make it a bit easier for you, and make you do the things you need to do.
Oh, let me add to that. That's such a great point. Watch this, and maybe you can incorporate some of this in your conversations. It's not that you need us. You can do this on your own.
Yeah.
The question, Colton, is
will you? Yeah.
Everybody can lose weight.
Yeah.
Everyone can earn $1 million. That's why I think people are getting lost with information, is they are getting lost in like, well, I could do this on my own. Yes, you could.
Right.
We're not debating the fact that you could. Anybody can do anything.
Yeah.
Question is will.
Yeah.
And that's where the rubber meets the road. That's why there's only a small percentage of people that are winning in a massive, massive way. It's because it's not, the problem is not knowing what to do.
Right.
The problem is doing it. And so many agents, and I have one that comes to mind that you and I both know.
Yeah.
It's like the dude is absolutely obsessed with new information.
And he's really smart.
He's very smart.
Yeah.
The execution is almost on the zero spectrum.
Yeah.
But the dude knows more about strategies in real estate than arguably anybody else, yet he struggles. Why? Because he doesn't do anything with the information. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people like that, to be fair, is they spend their time tricking themselves into believing they're being productive by going through a new thing or a new seminar, a new workshop, or a new video or a new strategy, when really everything works.
Yeah.
I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
Only that you do it on a consistent basis forever.
Well, and that's why I'm excited for some of the plans we have. We had a great event last year. Like, it was really good, really. And there was a lot of information, but when you taught it, you focused on getting it implemented. But I'm excited for what we're going to do of the prospecting sessions and action-focused events. Like, no more like, hey, let's come here, get fired up and learn. But like, no, we're doing stuff at the event. I think that's going to change some things.
It's going to change a lot of things.
It's important.
And that's, I mean, it's so funny you pick up on all this stuff. Yeah, our events moving forward are it's not going to be a feel-good dog and pony show.
Right.
I love Tony Robbins, but it's not a rah-rah event.
Right.
It's a doing experience. So that you come, you do, you perform, you act, you get feedback.
Yes.
And you grow and you get better.
Yep.
It's not I feel good for 3 days and then you lose everything.
Yeah, that goes away. Maybe when you get back, you're fired up for a week, but then when you get punched, Mike Tyson, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. What happens when you're not feeling so good and you're just getting like, oh my gosh, and something you and I just talked about earlier that we help our clients to understand is like a lot of people don't want to prospect a lot of times for the rejection, but even when you move past that, it's like, this is it? Like, this is kind of boring.
Right.
Like this is seriously what I'm doing all day.
Yeah.
And you and I just talked about earlier, like if you can do that, if you can build a very boring, sustainable, plain business, you can have a really fun life.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. You're exactly right, Colton. I think people that haven't succeeded, they think success is sexy.
Right. And
the people who have actually succeeded will all tell you the same thing.
Yep.
It's very boring.
Yep.
It's very mundane. It's very unsexy.
Yep.
And so it's going through that journey to be able to afford to do the things you want.
Yeah.
But the process is unsexy.
Yeah.
And I think that's what gets people in trouble is when they're doing things, they're like, this isn't fun.
Yeah.
This isn't sexy. This doesn't feel like successful people make it seem. So then they bounce from one thing to the next and the next, looking for the sexy thing to do.
But also, it's just, I've noticed this too, because I used to be that same way. I was like even up to a year ago when I'm like, is this it? Like, but that's just a story you're telling yourself. Like, if you can fall in love with the boring process and now you can really focus on, all right, no, this is what I do. I'm going to become incredible at this. And now when you just accept that, like, you can focus on getting so much better. And now the game is getting better. Now it's fun seeing how much better you can get.
You nailed it, man. That is the game right there.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of new things.
Yeah.
It's the matter of optimizing on what you're doing already.
Yep.
It's how good can I get on this skill, this strategy, going super, super deep. We talk about it all the time versus going wide, right? Just continuing to hit the chisel every day and how you handle it and the different movements. It's optimization.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about stepping on the scale every day to face reality versus operating from how you feel.
Emotions.
Emotions. This is a massive thing for people in this industry. And that is the importance not only of accountability, but tracking your numbers daily.
Big.
This is so massive. And I got feedback from an agent that was coaching one-on-one for the last couple of months. And he said, dude, I've heard you tell me to track my numbers for years.
Yeah.
And honestly, man, it just goes in one ear and out the other, like it does for many.
Yep.
He goes, I didn't understand the value of tracking numbers until I tracked my numbers. In other words, it just wasn't sexy enough for me to take action on it.
Yep.
But then when you made me do it on a daily basis, what I learned was I was completely operating from emotion.
Yep.
And that when I had a new reality and I faced it every day, that caused me to have a completely new framework on what I was doing versus what I thought I was doing.
Yep. And when you can combine that with your business plan and have the KPIs you need to hit and you're tracking your numbers, every single day, that's where you'll start to know, okay, every conversation I have is worth $40.
That's
Someone
right.
could tell me to pound sand. Someone, I could have a nice conversation with a human being. I could set an appointment. It doesn't matter. I just know, wow, thanks for the $40. And that, by tracking your numbers, is the only way you can do that, because even at that, there's the cycle of it. So you might have 1 week, 2 weeks, you don't set any appointments and you're going to get emotional. But if you look at your data over the last 3 months, you could be like, I'm actually ahead of where I should be right now.
You absolutely nailed it.
Yeah.
It's literally the thing that I was going to just bring up that you just absolutely nailed, because when you operate from emotions without the data, you don't know for sure how you're doing.
It's like driving blind.
Yeah, driving blind. It's just, I don't know. I feel good. I don't feel good. If you had a listing appointment this week, you felt good. But if you didn't, you don't feel good.
Yep.
The data tells you exactly where you're at without the emotion. So watch this. I make the argument that tracking your numbers actually brings better emotions because you have the facts. You're dealing with facts versus the unknown.
Yeah, it's like driving in the dark or driving in the morning when there's fog with just your lights on. But when you turn the fog lights on underneath you, you can see a little bit further. Like, it's still not going to be fun sometimes. It's still going to be painful, but you can now see ahead further than you are right in front of yourself, which is just your emotions. Like, that's where they are right here. And so we need to open that up with data.
Yeah. Well, and I think that to be fair, a lot of people understand the value of that, but they're unwilling to accept the reality.
Oh, that's the painful part.
That's the painful part, because it's very painful for somebody to see the literal scale go up. Like they're gaining weight. They can see it in real time themselves getting more and more unhealthy. In the real estate sales side, I can't face reality that I only had 2 conversations all week when my action plan says I should be having 20 per day. It's too painful to deal with that. So I'm gonna block out the pain. I'm not gonna face the pain. I'm not gonna face the reality, and I'm gonna go post a half-naked picture on the internet, through Canva, to get some dopamine, so I can get some attention, to make it look like I'm succeeding, and I'm gonna continue to run from the truth.
When you're at that point, I think what you need is just a new perspective. Because, like, I'll give another analogy. I actually learned this from somebody else, so I'm not going to take credit for it, but it's good. It's called the island analogy. So that's like walking. You're stuck on an island. You're walking around all you see is ocean. Like, you're just walking around you've walked around the beach 100 times, and like that's where you are now, right? That's where that's covering up the pain. That's not looking at. That's not changing or expanding. So to get a new perspective, to see the light and be able to work through that pain and have something come in differently to change, you need to walk up the top of the mountain on the island. And you could see from a new vantage point, dude, there's land right there. Like, you just need a new perspective on what the truth is, what reality is. Because that's like, if I go like this, I could barely see you. But like, if we have someone come and move your hands, move them out of the way, you have a new perspective. So you just need to get a new vantage point. And one of the rules of physics is that an object in motion stays in motion, an object at rest stays at rest. So unless acted upon by an equal. So like, you need an outside force. You need a new perspective to see the truth and accept it.
You're filled with it.
We're Analogy City today, bro.
Yeah, well, you ate your Wheaties, and you're right. I'm thinking about the same person that I was coaching, and he said the exact same thing. He said when we looked at the numbers, not on a daily basis, not on a weekly basis, but we started breaking it down monthly, the story unfolded.
Yes.
I can look back and say, okay, stop judging things off of one shot. One steal, one appointment. This high and low emotional roller coaster that realtors constantly are on their whole career. It's being more objective based on the data every 30, 60, 90 days. And in our tracker that we give our coaching clients, there's a year-to-date tab in there where they can make sense of everything they're doing. And that's the best, Colton. When someone can look at like 9 months worth of activity, you want to talk about feeling good. It's like, well, I know exactly how much I make per contact. I know how many people I have to talk to set an appointment. I know how many appointments I have to go on to take a listing. I know how many listings I have to take to get paid. I know everything in my business. I know where it's coming from. Therefore, it puts me in a place of clarity and certainty on my future.
And I think what you said earlier, I don't know if you meant to say it or if it came out, of people who aren't as analytical, who are more like feeling types, more emotional types, to make the data feel better for you. You said earlier, just think of it as a story. It's just telling a story of your life and your business. Like, it's not just, ones and zeros, although it is if you looked at it at face value, but like, allow it to tell you a story of your business.
It's a great point. It's a great point. And I guess I'll just add this is that what I've learned especially in this industry is that this correlation is as direct as you can get. And that is the people that have higher levels of accountability earn more income than those people that have lower accountability. Yep. And I know it's a simple concept for people to hear me say, but when they look at their business and their life and their career, I hope that they understand truly what that means. Yeah. You know, if you just go look around, go look at the people in your brokerage or your company, in your market that are succeeding at the highest level, and you're sitting there saying, man, how do they do it? How do they do it? How do they do it? Instead of focusing on the tactics and the strategy, trace it back to their accountability. And I think what you're going to find is that those people are being held accountable to doing simple things on a consistent basis because every time they find out what they're doing, they're let down. Yeah. They say to themselves, well, I send mailers once in a while. Right. Yeah, but you haven't been doing it for 27 years. Yes. Well, I make phone calls. Yeah, but you haven't done it for 14 years without ever missing. Yep. Well, I knock doors, right? They're comparing their chapter 1 to these highly successful people's chapter 27. And it always goes back down to they're being held accountable and you are not. Yeah. And I mean, I can even attest to that. Like we've, since a while ago, we like really dialed in our tracking at our company here internally. Like we tracked their numbers and, we were good. We're a smaller operation at the time, but since we've dialed that in personally, and I know Ron can attest to this, Amy could probably attest to this, and she's been doing this too. I've made more money. I've been more motivated to keep doing these things because I'm looking not only my numbers, and this is something we do for our inner circle coaching clients is like, man, I got to beat Ron this month, man. Competitive side of it. Like, come on. And it's fun, And so like when you have that truth and not only you can see it, but everybody else can see, like you don't want to be the one with goose eggs up there. No, you don't. And if you make it fun, it's good. Well, it is. And we're talking about human performance, and it's such a good, healthy way to operate, instead of dealing in fantasy land, it's like, this is what it is. I'm not doing good. I need to improve in this area of my business. Yeah. And when you look at it on a daily basis, performance goes up. Yeah. In other words, what gets measured gets improved. Yep. You can't fight it. Nope. You want to lose weight? Track everything you put in your mouth. Yeah. You want to spend less money? Track and write down every penny you spend. Yes. And this is the same. This is no different. And you're exactly right. Now that you're looking at your sales conversion, it's more motivating because you're dealing in actuals. Yeah, and then like we've said earlier, that's where you can improve. Like instead of when people try to grow and expand, like if you're looking at this in like a scientific way, if you're trying to change or figure out what a problem is, as a mechanic, my dad's a mechanic, and so one thing, if anything, I learned from my dad. One of the greatest things I learned from my dad growing up as a kid. Number one, he gave me the belief that you can fix anything. Because like that's cool. One of our dirt bikes would break down, like you can fix anything. But the way I saw him do it is like he didn't just try and all right, so this works. Okay, so that's fine. So that means that I have to check this. And you solve things in isolation. And so when you have your data, if you don't have your data, you don't know what to fix. And so when you have data, you can look at the numbers and fix the one thing you need to fix. You don't have to change everything. And when you try to fix something by changing everything, you don't have a variable to isolate to see if it made a difference. That is 100% spot on. So 100% spot on. So I guess to leave the conversation today, if people want to learn more about working with us and doing some of the things we talked about doing today, the easiest way for them to do that is just to click the link beneath this video. Yep. And then they can schedule a consultation and find out what real accountability means, find out what an environment can do for their business, because our goal in what we do is to provide potentially a better environment than their broker, more support, more accountability. And really, I'll tell you what I'm most proud about, Colton, in the work that we do, is being honest with people. In an industry that refuses to tell people the truth, is giving people a sense of truth. Yeah. And that's the feedback we get on a consistent basis. That's literally what I was going to say. I was like, going to be careful if you come on this call. We're going to be honest with you. Yeah. Like, we're going to tell you the truth for your good and just point you in the best direction, whether it's with us, by yourself, with somebody else. But it's always fun having these conversations when I talk to certain people and I'm like, no, like, let's hold off or try this. And they come back to me and they're like, oh my gosh, like, thank you for that honest conversation. Because we've had some people come on these calls. This happened to me 3 times in the last couple months from another, and there's a lot of good coaches out there, but
from a certain coach in particular. They got off a call with a coach, and one lady, you know how people try to book their things back to back.
Sure.
She came on my call in tears still.
No way.
Because of how they made her feel about, oh, you're a piece, you know,
they just beat her down.
They beat her down. And it's like, we're not going to do that, man. We're going to give you truth and help you make the best decision for your family in the future.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we talk about that much on these calls. Like, it's not just hey, you know, like, we're here to help you. Whether that's watching our YouTube channel for the next 6 months until you can make something happen, or rolling with coaching, we'll tell you the truth.
Yeah, I love it. Well, dude, I appreciate the time, like always. Always appreciate our conversations.
It's fun. We can keep going. I'm having fun.
Yeah. So, but yeah, if you guys have any questions about what we do, just go to reverseselling.com. You guys can learn more about all the things and all the programs that we have there. Yep. So until next time, we'll see you guys.
See you soon.
See you soon.